Cincinnati sent out America's first hospital ambulance, a simple, horse-drawn wagon. 150 years later, ambulances have evolved into fully electric Ford vehicles powered by lithium batteries. This is the evolution of American ambulances, from Civil War wagons to 2026. First, every story needs an origin point. Cincinnati Commercial Hospital Ambulance Wagon, established 1865. This was the first known hospital-based ambulance service anywhere in the United States. A simple horse-drawn wagon dispatched directly from the hospital itself whenever a call came in. There was no siren, no medical training required, and no coordination between cities at all. Still, it quietly set the exact template that every American city ambulance service would eventually follow for the next century and a half. Rucker Ambulance Wagon, introduced during the Civil War under Surgeon General William Hammond. This four-wheeled cart became a common and recognizable sight across battlefields throughout the war, replacing earlier stretcher-based systems that were proving simply too fragile for the chaos of combat. Hammond reorganized the entire chain of command so wounded soldiers were no longer left to line officers' discretion. One of the earliest genuinely standardized ambulance designs used anywhere in the country. Bellevue Hospital Horse-Drawn Ambulance, introduced 1869 under Civil War surgeon Dr. Edward Dalton. It featured an actual hard roof and a dedicated suspension system, both specifically engineered to reduce further injury during transport through the city. Dalton's team initially kept horses harnessed and standing by at all times, simply waiting for the next call to come in. Racing through the streets of Manhattan, it quickly became one of the most famous early ambulance operations in the entire country. Bellevue's drop harness system, refined during the 1870s. This clever pulley-based harness could be lowered directly onto waiting horses, straight from the ceiling, the instant a call came in. It replaced the earlier, much slower method of keeping horses fully harnessed and standing by around the clock without rest. In doing so, it managed to cut valuable seconds off response time in a way that genuinely predated the modern concept of rapid emergency dispatch. If this kind of deep dive is your thing, subscribe. It genuinely helps. And drop a comment. Would you trust an electric ambulance on an emergency call? The next breakthrough came from the engine, and the world changed with it. James Cunningham, Son and Company Model 774, introduced 1909 in Rochester, New York. This was the first mass-produced automobile ambulance ever built in the United States, powered by a 32-horsepower four-cylinder engine riding on genuine pneumatic tires. It featured electric lights and a side-mounted gong to warn pedestrians and other traffic out of its path. Built by a former carriage and hearse manufacturer, it marked the company's very first leap into the automotive age. Lying-in Hospital of New York Electric Ambulance, introduced 1909. This vehicle was used specifically to transport expectant mothers safely across the city during emergencies. It was an early electric vehicle, honestly more similar to a modern EMS golf cart than to any full-sized modern ambulance. Still, it stands as one of the earliest documented uses of electric power in American emergency medical transport, over a full century before today's electric revival. World War I Red Cross motor ambulance, deployed starting 1917 on Ford and Dodge commercial chassis. These vehicles rapidly replaced horse-drawn ambulances on the battlefield, thanks to their dramatically higher speed and far greater overall reliability. The success was so complete and so immediate that horse-drawn variants were essentially phased out of frontline service almost overnight. This effectively marked the true end of the horse-drawn ambulance era in American service for good. Then came an era where one manufacturer basically owned this entire category. 1951 Sayers and Scoville Cadillac ambulance, built by the Hess and Eisenhart-owned coach builder on a genuine Cadillac commercial chassis. It's one of the earliest documented Sayers and Scoville Cadillac ambulances still actively tracked by preservation groups today. This exact vehicle represented the true beginning of Cadillac's decades-long dominance over American ambulance coachwork. It was later joined by a full, well-documented lineage of Sayers and Scoville Cadillacs spanning 3 entire decades of service. 1956, Sayers and Scoville Cadillac Ambulance, continuing the same lineage into the middle of the decade. It was built as a genuine combination coach, meaning it could be converted between hearse and ambulance duty with only minor modifications required. This dual-purpose design was especially common in rural areas that simply couldn't afford to buy both vehicle types separately. It reflects the surprisingly practical dual-purpose reality of American emergency and funeral service at the time. 1958 Cadillac Miller Meteor Ambulance, one of the earliest documented Miller Meteor Cadillac ambulances still preserved today. It provided genuine emergency service across Arizona and New Mexico for a rescue organization all the way into the 1970s. This exact vehicle represents Miller Meteor's rise alongside Sayers and Scoville as one of the 2 leading American ambulance coach builders. Today it stands as a genuinely collectible piece of American emergency vehicle history. 1960 Cadillac Miller Meteor Ambulance, built on the same Cadillac commercial chassis shared with Miller Meteor's hearse lineup. It reflects the standardized combination car body style that was common across the entire industry at the time. This particular example is documented in vehicle history archives as a genuinely surviving piece from the era. It's part of the broader mid-century Cadillac ambulance boom that defined an entire generation of American emergency response. 1966 Sayers and Scoville Cadillac Ambulance, continuing that same rescue squad's Cadillac lineage into the middle of the decade. It represents the peak years of the Cadillac-based combination coach, right before federal standards were about to change absolutely everything. It was built before the Department of Transportation had even begun drafting its new size and equipment requirements, a genuine snapshot of American ambulances at their most stylistically distinctive and unmistakably elegant. 1968 Cadillac Miller Meteor Ambulance, built on the same Cadillac commercial chassis platform used industry-wide at the time. This exact body style would later become internationally famous after being repurposed decades later as a fictional vehicle in a hit movie. It represents peak-era Cadillac ambulance styling right before federal reform arrived and reshaped the entire industry. One of the single most visually recognizable ambulance designs in all of American pop culture history. 1971 Sayers and Scoville Cadillac Fleetwood, nicknamed Medic One, built by Hess and Eisenhart's Sayers and Scoville division. It was documented by Auto Week magazine as a genuine landmark Cadillac Fleetwood-based ambulance of its entire era. It represented some of the most advanced medical equipment integration available anywhere in a car-based ambulance at the time, one of the very last major Cadillac ambulance designs built before the federal specification era officially began. 1972 Cadillac Miller Meteor Ambulance, powered by a massive 472 cubic inch V8 producing 365 pound-feet of torque. It was used by Virginia Beach's Volunteer Rescue Squad after previously serving its earlier life as a hearse. A real-world example of the classic combination coach concept, quietly repurposed from transporting the dead to actively saving the living. It represents the final generation of Cadillac ambulances before the Department of Transportation's new rules took hold nationwide. But then, Washington was about to change everything. Miller Meteor Criterion, prototyped in 1973 and released as a 1974 model, designed specifically to meet the incoming federal KKK design specifications. It featured an industry-first walk-through bulkhead built using General Motors-sourced front bucket seats for the very first time. It was built exclusively on the Cadillac commercial chassis, standing as one of the very last true car-based American ambulances, widely regarded as the professional car industry's final serious attempt to keep Cadillac ambulances federally compliant. 1976 Cadillac Miller Meteor Criterion, the final model year built before Cadillac exited the ambulance chassis business entirely and for good. It deleted the rear quarter windows completely and relocated the spare tire to make room for built-in medical cabinetry instead. It marked the definitive, unmistakable end of the entire Cadillac-based American ambulance era once and for all. This closed the book on more than 2 full decades of Cadillac dominance in American emergency transport. Then came the van, taking over where the others left off. Dodge Tradesman van-based Type 2 ambulance, which became a standard federal spec platform almost immediately after Cadillac exited the ambulance business. It represented the brand new Type 2 van-based classification created specifically by the 1974 KKK federal specifications. It offered dramatically more usable interior working space than any car-based ambulance ever realistically could. It became the direct nationwide replacement for the Cadillac combination coach virtually overnight across the country. Wheeled Coach Modular Ambulance, a manufacturer founded in the early 1970s specifically to meet the sudden new federal modular ambulance demand. It quickly became one of the industry's leading dedicated modular ambulance builders across the entire country. It was built on genuine truck chassis rather than adapted car or hearse platforms like the manufacturers before it. This represents the true birth of the modern box-on-a-truck ambulance format still used today. Horton Emergency Vehicles Modular Ambulance, a manufacturer founded in 1974, directly in step with the brand new federal specifications being rolled out. It became one of the most widely used, dedicated ambulance manufacturers anywhere in the entire country. It focused specifically on building both Type 1 and Type 3 modular ambulance configurations from the very beginning. Still today, it remains one of the leading and most trusted names in American ambulance manufacturing. Braun Industries Modular Ambulance, a manufacturer founded in 1976, right as the long Cadillac ambulance era was finally coming to its end. It built dedicated Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 modular ambulances, all mounted on genuine commercial truck chassis. It became one of the industry's big 3 dedicated modular ambulance manufacturers, alongside both Horton and Wheeled Coach. This represents the true maturation of the modern American modular ambulance industry as we know it today. And now, fast forward to the present. Freightliner Type 1 heavy-duty ambulance built on a genuine commercial truck chassis specifically for rural and heavy rescue emergency service. It offers significantly more durability and payload capacity than any standard van-based ambulance unit realistically could manage. It's especially common among fire department-based EMS systems that need both dual rescue and patient transport capability in a single vehicle. It represents the heavy-duty end of the entire modern American ambulance spectrum. American Emergency Vehicles, or AEV, Ford Transit, Type 2 Custom Ambulance, a modern custom modular builder working directly on the Ford Transit van platform. It represents the industry's broader shift toward transit-based Type 2 ambulances as a genuine modern standard nationwide. It's built with modern patient safety and provider safety features that go far beyond anything required by 1970s-era federal regulations. A clear snapshot of exactly what a standard American ambulance looks like heading into the 2020s. Ford Transit Custom Type 2 ambulance, which became one of the most widely purchased ambulance platforms in the entire country by the early 2020s. It's offered in Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 configurations, entirely depending on each individual department's specific needs. It represents the modern default choice for departments actively replacing their aging, worn-out ambulance fleets today. It stands as the direct descendant of the very first Dodge and Ford van-based ambulances built back in the 1970s. And finally, this is where it's all heading next. Lightning eMotors converted E-Transit Ambulance, the specific conversion partner directly responsible for adapting Ford's E-Transit into a fully working ambulance platform. It provided the specialized electrical and upfit engineering genuinely needed to run medical equipment reliably on a battery electric chassis. It represents the growing and increasingly important role of dedicated EV conversion specialists within modern American emergency fleets, a critical, if often overlooked, piece of the entire electric ambulance supply chain. Ford F650 BEV command and rescue concept, part of a broader industry push to bring battery electric power to medium-duty Class 3 through Class 6 emergency vehicles. It's aimed specifically at command and rescue trucks, rather than at standard patient transport ambulances themselves. It reflects the emergency services industry's genuinely early-stage planning for a fully electrified future fleet down the road, still very much an emerging category as of the middle of this decade. 2026 Ford Transit Ambulance, the current standard modern ambulance platform readily available to American departments right now. It's offered through both certified pre-owned and factory direct channels, complete with fully modern patient care upfits. It represents the culmination of over an entire century of evolution, from horse-drawn wagons to today's purpose-built modular units, the direct present-day descendant of the very first Cunningham Model 774, built all the way back in 1909.